When was the last time you saw a rhino in the wild, or even in a zoo? Did you know that some rhino species have fewer than 80 individuals left on the entire planet? These massive ancient animals have survived for millions of years, but today, their greatest threat is us. If their numbers keep falling, will the next generation only know rhinos from pictures and documentaries? Or can we turn things around before it's too late? The rhinoceros is one of the most iconic and powerful animals to walk the earth. Yet despite its size and strength, it faces a precarious existence. Rhinos are large herbivorous mammals, known for their thick protective skin and prominent horns, which have become both their most distinctive feature and the main reason they are endangered. There are 5 species of rhinos alive today: the white rhino and black rhino found in Africa, and the greater one-horned rhino, Javan rhino and Sumatran rhino found in Asia. Each species has unique traits, but they all share certain characteristics, such as a large barrel-shaped body, short legs, and a relatively small brain compared to their body size. Their skin, though tough, is sensitive and can be prone to sunburn and insect bites, which is why rhinos often wallow in mud to protect themselves and cool down. The horns of rhinos are made entirely of keratin, the same substance found in human fingernails, and hair. Unlike the antlers of deer, which are made of bone, rhino horns grow continuously throughout their lives. Some species have 2 horns, while others have only 1. The greater one-horned rhino of India and Nepal has a single large horn, while the white and black rhinos of Africa have 2, with the front horn usually being longer. The horn is used for defense against predators, to assert dominance within social hierarchies, and to dig for water or break branches. Unfortunately, its value in illegal wildlife trade, due to myths about its medicinal properties, has made the horn the main target of poachers. White and black rhinos are not named for their colors, despite what their names might suggest. The term white rhino is believed to come from a mistranslation of the Afrikaans word white, meaning wide, which refers to the animal's broad, square-shaped mouth adapted for grazing on grass. The black rhino, by contrast, has a hooked upper lip designed for browsing on shrubs and trees. These differences in mouth shape are linked to their feeding habits and diets, and they also influence where the rhinos spend most of their time. Grazers tend to prefer open savannas, while browsers stay closer to bushy or wooded areas. Rhinos have poor eyesight and often rely more on their acute sense of smell and excellent hearing. The large swiveling ears can detect faint sounds from a great distance, helping them stay aware of both predators and other rhinos. Their smell allows them to locate other individuals and identify them through scent markings left on the ground or vegetation. These scent markings are important for communication, since most rhino species are not highly social and may only come together for mating or in areas with abundant food and water. Despite their massive bodies, which can weigh between 800 kilograms. For smaller Sumatran rhinos, and up to 2,500 kilograms for large male white rhinos, these animals are surprisingly fast and agile. They can run at speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour for short distances, and can turn quickly, even at high speed. Their legs are sturdy, and their wide feet with 3 toes provide stability on different terrains from mud to grasslands. The behavior of rhinos varies among species. White rhinos are more social and may be seen in small groups called crashes, while black rhinos tend to be solitary and more aggressive. Greater one-horned rhinos are often found alone, except during mating or when a mother is raising her calf. Sumatran and Javan rhinos are extremely elusive and prefer dense, tropical forests, which makes them difficult to study in the wild. Rhinos communicate through vocalizations like grunts, snorts, and growls, as well as through body language and scent marking. Reproduction in rhinos is slow, which is part of the reason their populations struggle to recover. Females usually give birth to a single calf after a gestation period of around 15 to 16 months. The calf stays with its mother for up to 3 years, learning survival skills and gradually becoming independent. During this time, the mother is very protective and will charge at perceived threats to safeguard her young. Males are territorial and compete for access, to females often engaging in horn clashes that can result in serious injuries. One of the most critical challenges rhinos face is poaching. The demand for rhino horn is driven primarily by black markets. In some parts of Asia, where it is falsely believed they have medicinal or status-enhancing qualities. Despite there being no scientific evidence for these claims, the price of rhino horn remains extremely high, making poaching a lucrative but devastating business. Conservationists have responded with anti-poaching patrols, dehorning programs, and the establishment of protected reserves. In some cases, rhinos are relocated to safer areas or even to undisclosed locations to keep them out of reach of poachers. Habitat loss is another major threat, especially for Asian rhinos whose forest habitats are being destroyed for agriculture and human development. With their ranges shrinking, these animals are forced into smaller areas where they may come into more frequent contact with people, leading to conflicts. Protecting habitat is as important as stopping poaching, because without enough space rhino, populations cannot grow. The white rhino story offers some hope. Once reduced to fewer than 100 individuals in the early 20th century, the southern white rhino population has recovered to over 18,000 thanks to intensive conservation efforts. However, the northern white rhino is on the brink of extinction, with only 2 females remaining, both under constant protection. Advanced reproductive technologies, including in vitro fertilization, are being explored to try to save the subspecies. The Sumatran and Javan rhinos are in even more critical danger, with fewer than 80 Sumatran rhinos and around 75 Javan rhinos surviving in the wild. These species live in isolated pockets, making them vulnerable to natural disasters, disease, and genetic problems from inbreeding. Captive breeding programs are underway, but they face immense challenges because of the rhino's slow reproduction and sensitivity to stress. Rhinos also play a vital role in their ecosystems. By grazing or browsing, they shape vegetation and create open spaces that benefit other animals. In African savannas, white rhinos keep grasslands short, which supports grazers like zebras and antelopes. In forests, rhinos disperse seeds through their dung, promoting plant growth and diversity. Their presence can indicate the overall health of an ecosystem, making them an important keystone species. Living alongside rhinos requires careful coexistence strategies. In some communities, ecotourism has become a valuable source of income, encouraging locals to protect rather than hunt these animals. Tourists are willing to travel great distances to see rhinos in the wild, and their spending can support conservation programs and provide jobs. Education campaigns also help reduce demand for rhino horn by spreading awareness of the reality behind the trade and the suffering it causes. Rhinos are often portrayed as tough and fearless, which they are, but they are also vulnerable and dependent on human action for survival in today's world. They are not aggressive by default and will usually avoid conflict if left undisturbed, but they are capable of defending themselves powerfully when threatened. Their charge is a display of speed and strength that few predators can withstand, though lions and crocodiles may sometimes prey on young calves. The future of rhinos will depend on a combination of strong law, enforcement against poaching effective, habitat protection, and public support for conservation. Without these measures, the world could lose some or all of the remaining species within our lifetimes. Every rhino that survives today is a testament to the dedication of conservationists and the resilience of the species. Standing on the plains of Africa or deep in the forests of Asia, a rhino embodies millions of years of evolution and a wild majesty that cannot be replaced if lost. The relationship between rhinos and their environment is complex and deeply rooted in the evolutionary history of these animals. Fossil evidence shows that rhinos have existed for millions of years and were once far more diverse and widespread than they are today. Ancient rhinos included species much larger than modern ones, as well as some that had no horns at all. They roamed parts of Europe, Asia, Africa, and North America, adapting to different climates and food sources. Over time, changing climates and human expansion reduced their ranges and diversity until only the 5 modern species remained. This long history means that rhinos have survived Ice Age's predators and shifting ecosystems, but human pressure has proven to be their greatest challenge yet. In the wild, rhinos maintain territories using scent marking, which involves spraying urine and depositing dung in specific spots. These dung piles, called middens, can be used by multiple rhinos and serve as a kind of communal notice board where individuals learn about the present sex and reproductive status of others. For solitary species, this is a vital form of long-distance communication. Males in particular patrol their territories regularly and will challenge intruders through posturing vocalizations and, if necessary, physical combat. Rhinos are not only important ecologically, but also culturally. In many countries, they feature in folklore, art, and symbolism, often representing strength, protection, and endurance. In African traditions, the rhino is sometimes depicted as a guardian spirit of the land. In parts of Asia, it has been linked to mythical creatures and was historically thought to have supernatural powers. Sadly, these beliefs contributed to the demand for rhino horn in traditional medicine, a factor that still drives illegal hunting today. The diet of a rhino depends on its species and habitat. White rhinos graze on short grasses, using their wide lips to crop vegetation close to the ground. Black rhinos browse on bushes and small trees, often snapping branches to reach leaves and shoots. Greater one-horned rhinos feed on tall grasses, fruit, and aquatic plants, while Sumatran rhinos browse on a variety of leaves, twigs, and figs in the rainforest. This diversity in feeding habits allows rhinos to occupy different ecological niches, but also means that the loss of specific vegetation types can directly threaten certain populations. Water is another key resource for rhinos. They drink regularly when water is available and often wallow in muddy pools to keep cool and protect their skin from sun and parasites. This wallowing behavior can create small water holes that benefit other species during dry periods. In drier regions, rhinos may travel long distances to find water, and their movements help maintain trails and open areas that other animals use. Rhinos have few natural predators once they reach adulthood, but young calves can be vulnerable. Lions, hyenas, leopards, and crocodiles may target calves if they are separated from their mothers. This is why rhino mothers are so fiercely protective, and why calves often stay very close to their parent in the early years of life. The bond between a mother and her calf is strong and lasts until the young rhino is fully capable of defending itself. Conservation work with rhinos involves a wide range of strategies. Anti-poaching teams often operate on the ground using patrols, drones, and even trained dogs to track and apprehend poachers. Some parks have implemented technology that allows tracking of individual rhinos with GPS collars so that rangers can respond quickly if an animal is in danger. In high-risk areas, some rhinos have their horns trimmed to make them less attractive to poachers, although this must be done carefully to avoid harming the animal. Breeding programs in captivity aim to maintain healthy genetic diversity and produce offspring that can one day be released into the wild. However, rhinos can be difficult to breed in captivity due to their slow reproduction and sensitivity to stress. For species like the Sumatran rhino, every birth is celebrated as a major success. Scientists are also studying advanced reproductive Technologies including artificial insemination, embryo transfer, and even cloning to help increase population numbers for critically endangered species. Public awareness plays a huge role in rhino conservation. Education campaigns target both local communities living near rhino habitats and international audiences who may unknowingly contribute to demand for rhino horn products. Many organizations highlight the fact that rhino horn is made of keratin and has no medicinal value whatsoever, helping to dispel the myths that fuel poaching. Ecotourism has shown that rhinos can bring significant economic benefits when they are alive and protected. Visitors who come to see rhinos in national parks spend money on guides, lodging, and park fees, which can be reinvested into conservation and community projects. When local people see that protecting rhinos can improve their livelihoods, they are more likely to become active stewards of wildlife. Despite the threats they face, rhinos demonstrate remarkable resilience. They can adapt to changes in habitat and have the strength to fend off predators, but they cannot defend themselves against modern human threats without our help. Every measure taken to protect them, whether through law enforcement, habitat restoration, or education, is a step toward ensuring that future generations will know these animals not just from pictures, but from real-life encounters in the wild. The survival of rhinos ultimately reflects the choices people make about nature and conservation. Their fate is intertwined with our own, because healthy ecosystems support human life as well. If rhinos disappear, it will not only be a loss of one of Earth's most impressive creatures, but also a sign that the natural systems we depend on are in decline. Saving the rhino is about more than preserving a single species. It is about maintaining the balance of life that has sustained this planet for millions of years. Rhinos also have an unexpected role in shaping the land in ways that benefit a variety of other wildlife. In savannas, their grazing habits help keep grasslands from becoming overgrown, which makes it easier for smaller herbivores to feed and for predators to see their prey. In forest habitats, rhinos open up dense vegetation by breaking branches and trampling paths, which creates space for new plants to grow and provides movement corridors for other animals. Their dung is rich in nutrients and supports countless insects, which in turn become food for birds and small mammals. In this way, a single rhino indirectly supports a whole web of life around it. One of the lesser-known aspects of rhino biology is their surprisingly complex social behavior. While many species are solitary, they still maintain overlapping territories and may engage in ritualized displays rather than constant fighting. Male white rhinos in particular may tolerate each other if their ranges are large enough and resources are abundant. These peaceful interactions are balanced by moments of high tension, especially during mating seasons when dominant males guard receptive females and drive off rivals. Physical confrontations can be dangerous and even deadly, but they are often avoided through posturing, horn clashing, and deep bellows that signal strength. The sounds rhinos make are more varied than many people expect. They can produce grunts, squeals, squirts, and even a kind of honking call. Calves make high-pitched cries when distressed and soft whining sounds when seeking comfort from their mothers. These vocalizations, along with scent marking, create a network of communication that is essential for survival in their often large and sparsely populated home ranges. Rhino calves are born without horns, which begin to grow within a few weeks of birth. This reduces the risk of injury to the mother during nursing and play. From the moment they can stand, calves shadow their mothers, closely learning where to find food and water and how to react to threats. Play is an important part of their development as it strengthens muscles and coordination, while also teaching the young animal how to use its horn in mock sparring. The thick skin of a rhino is often described as armor, but it is actually sensitive to touch and can be vulnerable to injury. The skin is made up of layers of collagen that provide both toughness and flexibility, allowing the rhino to move freely despite its size. Mud baths serve as natural sunscreen and insect repellent, coating the skin in a layer that keeps it cool and protected. Rhinos are known to visit favorite wallowing spots regularly, and these areas often become important gathering points for other species as well. In some reserves, rhinos have formed unexpected relationships with other animals. Birds such as oxpeckers perch on their backs to feed on ticks and other parasites, while issuing alarm calls when danger approaches. This mutually beneficial relationship has been observed in both African and Asian species and may provide rhinos with an early warning system they cannot achieve through their poor eyesight alone. The global effort to save rhinos involves a network of conservationists, governments, researchers, and local communities working together. Some countries have implemented strong penalties for poaching and illegal trade in rhino horn, while international treaties aim to shut down the markets that drive demand. However, the black market remains persistent, meaning that protection efforts must be constant and adaptable. There is growing interest in using modern technology to assist rhino conservation. From satellite tracking that monitors rhino movements to DNA analysis that can trace seized horns back to the animals they were taken from, these tools make it harder for poachers to operate undetected. Some projects have even explored using 3D printed synthetic rhino horn to flood the market and reduce the value of real horn, though this approach remains controversial. Rhinos are also a flagship species for broader conservation goals. Protecting their habitats often means protecting many other species that share the same ecosystem. By focusing resources on rhinos, entire landscapes can be preserved, ensuring the survival of a wide range of plants and animals. This is why rhino conservation often goes hand in hand with preserving national parks and reserves that benefit whole regions. The story of the rhino is one of both ancient survival and modern crisis. They have endured natural challenges for millions of years, but are now pushed to the brink by human activity in just a few decades. Yet there is still hope, as each success story, no matter how small, proves that dedicated effort can make a difference. Whether it is the slow but steady growth of the greater one-horned rhino population in Nepal, or the continued births of white rhino calves in protected areas, every gain shows that extinction is not inevitable. The future will require not only continued conservation work, but also a change in how people value wildlife. Rhinos are not just resources to be exploited or spectacles to be photographed. They are living parts of a complex and interconnected world. Their survival will depend on a shared recognition that the loss of such creatures would diminish not only nature's diversity, but also our own humanity. Protecting rhinos is as much about safeguarding beauty and wonder as it is about preserving the ecological processes they help maintain. And in doing so, we ensure that the thunder of their footsteps continues to echo across grasslands and forests for generations to come. Rhinos are remarkable for many reasons, but one of the most fascinating is their deep evolutionary lineage. They belong to the order Perissodactyli, which means odd-toed ungulates, a group that also includes horses and tapirs. Despite their size and strength, they share distant ancestry with these much smaller and more nimble animals. Millions of years ago, there were dozens of rhino species scattered across the globe, with some that resembled today's modern rhinos and others that looked quite different, including the massive woolly rhinoceros that roamed Eurasia during the Ice Age. These prehistoric rhinos adapted to a variety of climates, from tropical forests to frozen tundras, and their survival through shifting eras was a testament to their resilience. The modern species we see today are just the last surviving branches of a once vast family tree. The 5 living species each have unique adaptations shaped by their environments. The white rhino is the largest living species, weighing up to 2.5 tons and standing taller than most people at the shoulder. Its broad, square lips are perfect for grazing on the short grasses of the African savanna, and it often spends hours each day feeding. The black rhino, while smaller, is still formidable, and its pointed prehensile lip gives it a delicate grip on leaves and twigs, allowing it to browse shrubs and small trees with precision. The greater one-horned rhino, also called the Indian rhino, is distinguished by its thick armor like skin folds and a single horn. It thrives in grasslands and riverine forests of India and Nepal. The Javan rhino, one of the rarest mammals on Earth, is similar in appearance to the greater one-horned rhino, but smaller and with a less prominent skin fold pattern. Lastly, the Sumatran rhino, the smallest and hairiest of all rhino species, lives in the dense tropical forests of Southeast Asia and is the closest living relative to the extinct woolly rhinoceros. One of the most remarkable features shared by all rhino species is their horn or horns. Made entirely of keratin, the same protein found in human hair and nails, the horn grows continuously and can regenerate if damaged. The size and shape of the horn vary by species and even between individuals. Rhinos use their horns for many purposes, including defense against predators, displays of dominance during mating competitions, and manipulating their environment, such as digging for water or breaking branches. Sadly, this very feature has become their greatest vulnerability as the illegal wildlife. Trade values rhino horn at prices higher than gold in some black markets due to unfounded beliefs in its medicinal properties or as a symbol of status. Rhino conservation is a complex and often dangerous endeavor. Anti-poaching units work tirelessly to protect these animals using a combination of on-the-ground patrols, aerial surveillance, and advanced tracking technology. In some regions, rhinos are dehorned by conservation teams to make them less appealing targets for poachers, though this practice is controversial because the horn plays an important role in the rhino's natural behavior. Relocation projects have moved rhinos from high-risk areas to safer locations, sometimes across international borders, to establish new secure populations. These operations require careful planning and immense resources, since moving an animal of such size demands specialized equipment and skilled teams. Despite the threats they face, rhinos are capable of thriving when given the chance. In certain protected areas, populations have stabilized or even grown thanks to strict enforcement and community involvement. In Nepal, for example, the greater one-horned rhino population has seen significant increases due to decades of committed conservation work coupled with local engagement. This success story highlights the importance of involving communities that live alongside rhinos. When people see tangible benefits from protecting wildlife, such as income from ecotourism or improved infrastructure funded by conservation projects, they are more likely to support and actively participate in protecting these animals. Rhinos are generally calm if left undisturbed, but they can be extremely dangerous when threatened. They have a reputation for charging at perceived danger, often without hesitation. Their speed can reach up to 50 kilometers per hour, and their mass gives them enormous momentum, making a charging rhino nearly impossible to stop. While they have poor eyesight, they compensate with excellent hearing and an acute sense of smell, allowing them to detect threats long before they are seen. This combination of sensory awareness and sheer physical power makes them formidable in the wild out there. Role in the ecosystem cannot be overstated. As mega herbivores, rhinos shape the structure of vegetation in their habitats, which influences the distribution and abundance of other plant and animal species. In African grasslands, white rhinos maintain short grass lawns that benefit smaller grazers such as zebras and antelopes. In forests, Sumatran rhinos disperse seeds from the fruits they eat, helping to regenerate plant growth. These contributions make rhinos a keystone species, meaning that their presence has a disproportionately large impact on the environment compared to their numbers. Breeding in rhinos is a slow process which poses a challenge for conservation. Females typically give birth to a single calf after a long gestation of 15 to 16 months. Calves are dependent on their mothers for several years, and females do not reproduce again until the calf is independent. This means that even under ideal conditions, population growth is gradual. In the wild, males compete for access to females with dominant bulls, maintaining territories that overlap with the ranges of receptive females. These contests can be intense with horn clashes and pushing matches, but fatalities are relatively rare, since many confrontations are resolved through displays of strength rather than actual combat. Some of the most threatened rhino populations live in extremely remote and difficult-to-access regions, which makes monitoring and protection challenging. The Javan rhino, for example, survives only in Ujung Kulon National Park, in Indonesia, a dense jungle area with limited human access. While isolation offers some protection from poachers, it also makes the species vulnerable to natural disasters, such as tsunamis or volcanic eruptions. For the Sumatran rhino, fragmented populations make breeding more difficult, as individuals may never encounter each other in the wild. Captive breeding centers have been established to bring isolated rhinos together and encourage reproduction, but the process is slow and fraught with challenges. There is a growing understanding that the survival of rhinos will depend not just on direct protection, but also on addressing the root causes of poaching. Reducing demand for rhino horn through education and cultural change is crucial. Campaigns in countries where rhino horn is consumed aim to inform the public that it has no medicinal value and that its trade threatens the very existence of these animals. Some younger generations are beginning to reject the practice, which offers hope for a long-term decline in demand. Rhinos stand as living symbols of the wild, unyielding and majestic, yet also fragile in the face of modern threats. Their survival story is still being written, and whether it ends in recovery or loss will depend entirely on human actions in the coming decades. If we succeed in protecting them, we will not only save a species, but also preserve the ecosystems they help sustain, and pass on a legacy of resilience and beauty to future generations. The sight of a rhino moving steadily across the land, head held, high horn pointed forward, is a reminder of a time when the world was wilder and more abundant. Ensuring that sight remains possible is a responsibility that extends far beyond the borders of the countries where rhinos roam for. It speaks to the shared heritage of life on Earth and our place within it. The daily life of a rhino in the wild revolves around a few essential needs: food, water, safety, and in some cases, social interaction. Most rhinos are active in the early morning and late afternoon when temperatures are cooler. During the heat of the day, they rest in shade or wallow in mud to keep cool. Their slow, deliberate movements while feeding are deceptive, as they can switch to explosive speed in a split second if startled or threatened. Grazing or browsing can take up a large portion of the day, since these massive animals need to consume large amounts of vegetation to sustain their energy. A white rhino, for example, can eat over 50 kilograms of grass in a single day, while a browsing black rhino consumes a wide variety of leaves, twigs, and shoots. Rhinos are not as solitary as many believe, though their social structures vary between species. White rhinos are the most social, sometimes forming groups of up to a dozen individuals, known as crashes, especially females with calves. Males are more territorial and usually solitary, but may tolerate younger males within their ranges if resources are abundant. Black rhinos, in contrast, are much more solitary, and encounters between adults often end in aggressive displays. Greater one-horned rhinos are largely solitary, except during mating or in areas with rich feeding grounds, while Javan and Sumatran rhinos are so rare and elusive that much of their social behavior remains a mystery. One behavior common across species is the use of scent to communicate. Rhinos have large preorbital scent glands and also use urine and dung to leave messages for other rhinos. Middens or communal dung piles are used repeatedly over time and can contain information about the identity, sex, and reproductive state of individuals who visit. These olfactory signals are crucial in large territories where direct encounters between rhinos are rare. While adult rhinos face few predators, calves are more vulnerable. The greatest natural threats come from lions, hyenas, crocodiles, and tigers in Asia. This is why mothers remain highly protective for several years, keeping calves close and placing themselves between their young and any perceived danger. Calves often mimic their mother's behavior, learning what plants to eat, where to find water, and how to respond to threats. Playful sparring between calves is not just for fun, it develops the muscles and skills they will need as adults. The senses of a rhino are specialized for survival in open plains and dense forests alike. Their eyesight is relatively poor, and they may not clearly see a stationary human from more than 30 meters away. However, their hearing is excellent, and their large swiveling ears can detect sounds from far off. Smell is their most acute sense, allowing them to detect other animals, including humans, long before visual contact. In dense vegetation, this sense of smell becomes a critical tool for avoiding danger and finding mates or rivals. Mud wallowing is an important behavior that serves multiple purposes. A coating of mud acts as sunscreen, protects against insect bites, and helps remove parasites when it dries and flakes off. Rhinos often have favored wallowing sites, which may be used by multiple individuals. These spots can become small hubs of animal activity, attracting birds, mammals, and insects that benefit from the disturbed ground and available water. In African savannas, rhinos play a key ecological role by shaping vegetation patterns. The grazing of white rhinos creates short grass lawns that attract grazers such as zebras and antelopes, which in turn support predators like lions and cheetahs. In Asian forests, the feeding habits of rhinos open up dense areas of vegetation, allowing light to reach the forest floor and promoting plant diversity. The seeds they consume pass through their digestive system and are deposited far from the parent plants, often with the added benefit of natural fertilizer. This seed dispersal function makes them important agents of forest regeneration. Despite their size and strength, rhinos have been pushed to the brink of extinction, mainly due to human activities. Poaching remains the most immediate threat, with organized criminal networks supplying horns to markets in Asia. Rhino horn has no proven medicinal properties, yet myths persist that it can cure illnesses, reduce fever, or serve as an aphrodisiac. In reality, it is composed entirely of keratin, the same substance as human nails. Conservation groups work tirelessly to counter these myths through education campaigns targeting both international markets and local communities. Near rhino habitat loss is an equally serious threat, especially in Asia, where forests are being cleared for agriculture, palm oil plantations, and human settlement. As their habitats shrink, rhinos are forced into smaller areas, increasing the likelihood of inbreeding and making them more vulnerable to poaching. In some places, human encroachment also leads to conflict with rhinos, damaging crops or property, which can result in retaliation from local farmers. Addressing these issues often involves creating wildlife corridors that allow rhinos to move safely between protected areas and compensating communities for losses caused by wildlife. The history of rhino conservation is filled with both setbacks and triumphs. The southern white rhino is often cited as one of the greatest conservation success stories, recovering from fewer than 100 individuals in the early 20th century to over 18,000 today, thanks to strict protection and active management. However, this success is fragile, as poaching pressure remains high, and any lapse in protection could reverse decades of progress. Other species have not been so fortunate. The northern white rhino is functionally extinct, with only 2 females remaining. and intensive scientific efforts underway to use stored genetic material and advanced reproductive techniques to revive the subspecies. Captive breeding programs are critical for the most endangered species such as the Sumatran and Javan rhinos. These programs face many challenges, including the difficulty of pairing compatible individuals, the stress that captivity can place on animals, and the long intervals between births. Nonetheless, there have been notable successes with Sumatran rhinos, in particular producing calves in carefully managed facilities. These births provide not only hope for the species, but also valuable knowledge about rhino biology, reproduction, and behavior. Public involvement is a cornerstone of modern conservation efforts. Ecotourism provides a sustainable source of income for communities and national parks, showing that living rhinos can bring far greater long-term benefits than killing them for their horns. Visitors who experience the sight of a rhino in its natural habitat often become lifelong advocates for their protection. Some conservation organizations run volunteer programs allowing people from around the world to assist with habitat restoration, anti-poaching patrols, and community education. Technology has also become a powerful ally in the fight to save rhinos. GPS collars, satellite imagery, and drones help track movements and detect poaching threats. DNA analysis of confiscated horns can link them to specific poaching incidents, strengthening law enforcement cases. In some reserves, hidden cameras and acoustic sensors are used to monitor rhino populations with minimal disturbance. The battle to save rhinos is ultimately a race against time. Without sustained and coordinated efforts across borders, these animals could disappear from the wild within a few decades. Yet the resilience of rhinos and the dedication of those working to protect them offer a reason for hope. Every calf born in the wild, every poacher stopped, and every hectare of habitat preserved is a step toward a future where rhinos can once again roam in safety across vast landscapes. Their survival will stand as a testament to human commitment to protect not just one species, but the integrity and beauty of the natural world itself. Rhinos have a way of leaving a lasting impression on anyone who encounters them. Their sheer size combined with an almost prehistoric appearance makes them look like relics from another age, and in a sense they are. They are among the last of the megafauna that once dominated much of the planet. Observing them in the wild reveals an animal that is both powerful and surprisingly gentle in its daily routines. A white rhino grazing in the golden light of dawn, or a Sumatran rhino emerging from the shadows of dense jungle is a scene that feels timeless, yet such moments are becoming increasingly rare in our world. The territorial behavior of rhinos plays a significant role in shaping how they use their habitats. Males typically defend territories that overlap with those of several females, while younger or less dominant males are often relegated to less desirable areas. Territory boundaries are marked with dung piles, urine spraying, and scraping the ground with their feet. These scent marks send clear messages to other rhinos about the presence and status of the territory holder. Intrusions can lead to aggressive encounters, especially if the intruder is another mature male. Such encounters may involve horn clashing, pushing, and even chasing, though they often end before serious injury occurs. Females, on the other hand, are more flexible in their ranges, moving according to the availability of food, water, and safe calving areas. They tend to be more tolerant of one another, and in the case of white rhinos may even form semi-stable groups that graze together for extended periods. This social tolerance allows calves to interact with other young rhinos, which may be beneficial for learning behaviors and building the skills needed later in life. Calving is a critical event for any rhino population. Females usually give birth to a single calf weighing between 40 and 65 kilograms. The calf is able to stand within an hour and begins to follow its mother soon after. In the early months, the mother is highly protective and will place herself between her calf and any perceived danger. Nursing continues for up to a year, though the calf begins eating solid food within a few weeks. Independence comes slowly, often taking 2 to 3 years before the mother is ready to breed again. This slow reproductive rate means that any loss of breeding age females to poaching or accidents can have a long-lasting impact on the entire population. Poaching pressure affects more than just numbers. In areas where poaching is intense, rhinos may alter their behavior, becoming more nocturnal or avoiding certain open areas they once frequented. This shift can affect their feeding efficiency and social interactions. It can also create challenges for conservationists who rely on consistent patterns to monitor and protect individuals. Some innovative conservation approaches are being tested to counter these threats. In certain regions, rhino populations are placed under what is called intensive protection zones, small areas where security is heightened with more frequent patrols and better surveillance. This approach has proven effective in reducing poaching incidents and allowing populations to stabilize. Another approach is translocation, moving rhinos to establish new populations in areas where they are historically native but currently absent. This not only spreads risk, but also restores ecological balance to those regions. Africa holds the majority of the world's rhinos. The species in Asia face even steeper challenges due to their smaller population sizes and more fragmented habitats. The Javan rhino is confined to a single location, Ujung Kulon National Park in Indonesia. While this offers strong protection, it also concentrates the entire species in one area, making it highly vulnerable to disease outbreaks or natural disasters. Efforts are underway to identify and prepare a second site for Javan rhinos to reduce this risk. The Sumatran rhino's plight is even more precarious. Its populations are spread across a few isolated locations in Indonesia, with each group containing very few individuals. This isolation reduces genetic diversity and makes finding mates in the wild extremely difficult. Captive breeding centers have become vital for bringing these rhinos together. The births achieved in these facilities are among the rarest and most celebrated events in the conservation world because each calf represents a significant step away from extinction. Rhinos have also become ambassadors for broader conservation messages. Their plight highlights the interconnectedness of ecosystems and the ripple effects of losing large species. When a rhino is removed from its environment, the plants it once ate may overgrow, changing the structure of the habitat. The animals that relied on the rhino's grazing or seed dispersal may decline, leading to further ecological imbalance. This cascading effect demonstrates why protecting rhinos also means protecting a host of other species, from the smallest insects to large predators. The role of communities in rhino conservation cannot be overstated. In regions where people live close to rhino habitats, daily life often involves balancing agricultural needs with wildlife presence. Programs that provide tangible benefits for conservation, such as employment in anti-poaching units, guiding ecotourists, or running small businesses supported by park visitors, help turn potential conflicts into partnerships. Education programs for children in these communities create a new generation that values wildlife as part of their heritage. In some cultures, rhinos hold symbolic or spiritual significance. In African folklore, they may be portrayed as wise guardians or symbols of power and resilience. In parts of Asia, historical records show rhinos being kept in royal menageries or depicted in ancient art. These cultural ties can be used positively in modern conservation by framing rhinos as part of national pride and identity, something worth protecting not just for ecological reasons, but also for cultural heritage. Modern science is adding new tools to the conservation toolkit. Genetic studies help identify how related individual rhinos are, which informs breeding decisions both in the wild and in captivity. Advances in assisted reproduction, including artificial insemination and embryo transfer, offer hope for species on the brink though these techniques are still challenging with rhinos. Research into rhino behavior ecology and health continues to fill gaps in knowledge, allowing conservationists to make more informed decisions. The fight to save rhinos is also about changing hearts and minds far from the places where rhinos live. International campaigns target consumers in markets where rhino horn is sold, urging them to reject products made from wildlife. Celebrities and public figures lend their voices to raise awareness and encourage action. Online platforms allow conservation organizations to share real-time updates, photos, and videos that connect people emotionally to the cause. Ultimately, the survival of rhinos depends on a combination of field protection, political will, community engagement, and global awareness. It is a complex challenge, but one that has seen real victories, proving that determined action can reverse even dire situations. The white rhino's recovery is proof of this, and it serves as a model for what can be achieved with persistence and cooperation. Looking ahead, the hope is that future generations will inherit a world where rhinos are not just memories in books or displays in museums, but living, breathing parts of thriving ecosystems. Standing in the presence of a rhino is to witness a link to a distant past and to feel the weight of responsibility for the future. They remind us that nature's giants deserve space to roam, that strength and gentleness can exist in the same creature, and that our actions today will decide whether their footsteps continue to echo across grasslands and forests or fade into silence forever. Rhinos embody the paradox of nature's giants. They are immense and strong, yet their survival is fragile and precarious. They inspire awe through their sheer presence, but also evoke concern because every living rhino is part of a population under siege. When seen in the wild, they move with a quiet assurance, each step deliberate, as if aware of the weight of their ancient lineage. To witness them is to see the living continuation of millions of years of evolution, and to feel the urgency of ensuring that story does not end with us. One of the key elements in ensuring their survival is safeguarding the genetic diversity of each species. Low genetic diversity makes a population more vulnerable to diseases and less adaptable to environmental changes. For species like the Javan and Sumatran rhino, where the entire global population could fit into a small sports arena, maintaining genetic health is a monumental task. Conservation biologists study bloodlines to determine which individuals should be paired for breeding, both in captivity and in the wild. The process is delicate because rhinos are selective about their mates, and forced pairings can cause stress or even aggression. Health monitoring is also a vital part of conservation. Rhinos can suffer from diseases such as anthrax, tuberculosis, and parasitic infections. In the wild, these outbreaks can spread rapidly through small populations with devastating results. Wildlife veterinarians often work alongside conservationists to track and treat illnesses when possible. In some cases, rhinos are vaccinated against known threats before being translocated to new areas. The logistics of capturing and treating such massive animals are complex, requiring tranquilizers delivered from a distant specialized transport crates and experienced teams to ensure the safety of both rhino and humans. Habitat restoration plays a central role in long-term conservation planning. Many rhino habitats have been degraded by human activity, whether through overgrazing by livestock deforestation or agricultural expansion. Restoring these areas involves removing invasive plant species, replanting native vegetation, and ensuring that water sources are secure. In some reserves, controlled burns are used to regenerate grasslands and improve grazing conditions for white rhinos. In forest habitats, corridors are created to connect fragmented areas, allowing rhinos to roam more freely and increasing their chances of finding mates. Rhinos influence human economies in significant ways, particularly through ecotourism. Parks that protect rhinos often become destinations for wildlife enthusiasts, generating revenue that supports both conservation and local communities. The money spent by tourists helps fund anti-poaching patrols, equipment maintenance, and scientific research. In addition, it creates jobs ranging from guides and trackers to lodge staff and transport operators. This economic incentive provides a compelling reason for governments and communities to prioritize rhino conservation. The emotional connection between humans and rhinos can be profound. Many rangers and conservationists form strong bonds with the animals they protect, spending years monitoring individual rhinos and celebrating each calf's birth as a personal victory. These relationships often extend beyond professional duty, becoming part of the ranger's identity. In areas plagued by poaching, these bonds can also bring deep grief when a rhino is lost, especially if it is one that has been followed and cared for over many years. In global conservation circles, rhinos are often considered flagship species. Protecting them draws attention and resources that also benefit countless other species sharing their habitat. When a government enforces laws to protect rhinos, it strengthens the overall framework for wildlife protection. This ripple effect can improve outcomes for elephants, big cats, and a wide variety of birds, reptiles, and plants. For this reason, rhinos serve as rallying points for broader environmental efforts, acting as symbols of what is at stake in the struggle to preserve biodiversity. Technological advances have made some previously impossible strategies viable. High-resolution satellite imagery can now track habitat changes in near real time, allowing conservationists to respond quickly to threats such as illegal logging or encroachment. Camera traps have revealed aspects of rhino behavior previously unknown, such as nighttime movements, courtship rituals, and rare interactions between species. Even acoustic monitoring has been used to detect gunshots or unusual activity in protected areas, triggering rapid deployment of ranger teams. In recent years, the use of community-based conservation has shown promising results. This approach involves granting local communities a stake in the management of natural resources. When people see direct benefits from protecting wildlife, they become more invested in conservation. In Namibia, for example, communal conservancies have helped increase black rhino numbers by involving local people in monitoring and anti-poaching efforts, while also allowing controlled tourism that generates income for the community. This model is increasingly being studied and adapted in other countries where rhinos live. The legal battle against poaching extends beyond park boundaries. International treaties, such as CITES, ban the trade in rhino horn, and many countries have enacted strict penalties for those caught trafficking it. However, enforcement is uneven and corruption can undermine progress. Effective conservation requires political will and cross-border cooperation, since poaching networks often operate across multiple countries. Interpol and other agencies work with local governments to dismantle these networks, but the challenge remains immense. Education remains a long-term solution to the rhino crisis. In consumer countries where rhino horn is sold as medicine or a luxury item, campaigns aim to change perceptions by showing the suffering and ecological damage caused by the trade. In range countries, educational programs in schools and communities emphasize the value of rhinos as part of national heritage and living ecosystems. Over time, these efforts can shift cultural attitudes, making the killing of rhinos socially unacceptable. There are moments of hope that stand out in the struggle to save rhinos. The sight of a newborn calf following its mother across a grassy plain, the rediscovery of rhinos in areas where they had vanished, and the quiet success stories of poachers turned rangers all demonstrate the potential for change. These moments remind us that extinction is not inevitable, and that with enough commitment, recovery is possible. Looking to the future, scientists and conservationists are exploring even more ambitious strategies. Some are working on cryopreserving rhino embryos and sperm to create a genetic bank that could be used centuries from now if needed. Others are studying the possibility of using cloning or advanced genetic engineering to reintroduce lost genetic diversity. While these methods are still in their infancy, they represent a growing toolbox for tackling the challenges of conserving species with critically low numbers. The legacy of rhino conservation will depend on whether we can balance the immediate need for protection with the long-term goal of coexistence. This means securing enough space for rhinos to live naturally without constant human intervention, while also ensuring that human communities benefit from keeping those spaces wild. If this balance can be achieved, rhinos could once again thrive in landscapes that have sustained them for millennia. Standing before a rhino, one cannot help but be struck by the quiet dignity of the animal. Its horn curves upward like a banner of survival. Its skin bears the marks of a life spent navigating a harsh world, and its deep, steady breathing carries the rhythm of an ancient heartbeat. They are more than just animals, they are living monuments to endurance and adaptability. If we succeed in protecting them, their continued existence will serve as proof that humanity can act as a guardian rather than a destroyer. If we fail, their absence will echo as a reminder of what was lost and what can never be replaced. The choice is still ours, and the time to act is now. Rhinos have roamed the earth for millions of years, yet today their survival hangs by a thread. Every action we take matters. Protecting them isn't just about saving a species, it's about preserving a piece of our planet's history. The question is, will we rise to the challenge, or will future generations only know rhinos from stories? The choice is ours.